moment. See if it says recording. We are recording. Awesome. But I do want to open in prayer tonight. And so we want to pray for Sam for your asthma, right, Sam, for your asthma? Yeah, because this is probably a thumbs down, right? Yeah, the skies here right now are really, really bad. And I have some friends out in Hemet that and it's still so hot there. I know when we say hot here, Letitia, where are you? There you are.
I've been here for.
Hey, girl. Hi, oh, I'm so glad. Thank you with a class of 18. I kind of got lost there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so glad that you're here. Very nice. Yeah, how's your sky? Is the sky in Costa Mesa bad for you?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very yellow out right now. Yeah.
Yeah, my asthma is triggered, so I can't have anything open right now.
Which also then makes it hot where you are, probably.
Thank God for air conditioner.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. I turn mine on for like 10 minutes at a time because it's just really expensive. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to allow myself 10 minutes of air. I don't have it on right now because it's noisy too. So, but all right. So we'll also pray for Letitia for asthma. Anybody else suffering from asthma right now with whatever's going on wherever you're? Okay, Cindy also. See, all us Californians out here, the sky right now is just horrible because of the Hemet fire. And well, Nikki, you're in Orange County too, so your sky's got to be dark as well. I don't think we're getting the Big Bear, but I think we are getting ashes from the Hemet fire. Oh, and as I was saying, my friend who lives out there, she has been she's a crossing guard for a company. She calls herself a flagger, but she's had to be out there. She's like 72. She's had to be, I know, yeah, she's had to be outside every day in that ash, being a crossing guard for a big corporate. There's a company out there that they actually have to cross their people across a large street. And so I asked her if she had to be a crossing guard today. She's like, no, I'm a flagger. Like, okay, well, praying for her because the evacuations are quite heavy. That they don't have a grip on that Hemet fire yet. In fact, I guess there's a lot of California that's on fire right now. So anybody else, what other prayer requests do you have? And you can even put them in chat.
Hi, it's Melissa. I have 2 prayer requests.
Okay.
If you could pray for my mom, Justine. She just had to have surgery to have her appendix out. And for my Aunt Lori, she had surgery last week to have a hernia removed. So I have both of these ladies recovering. So our family's trying to band together to help, but there's only so many of us to be everywhere. So just praying for recovery for them.
And are you driving right now?
I am driving home right now. Unfortunately, Justin's not here, but he says hello. But I'm here with my daughter. My daughter Hannah just picked her up from Vanguard.
Go Lions!
You can say hi. It's okay.
Hola. And what was your mom's name, Melissa?
My mom's name is Justine.
Justine. Okay. Good thing. And we know God knows her name, so that's good. All right. Anyone else? All right. So we have all of our asthma individuals. All right. Anything else? Well, let's just go and take a moment and glorify God. Father God, we come to you again today because I'm sure each and every one of us have started our day with you, continued our day with you, because it's just by the grace of God that we're able to do what we need to do. Lord, you already know the prayer requests that have been mentioned tonight and the others too, the ones that have not been mentioned. And so, Father, I just turn all of our needs over to you, Lord. Your word tells us to come boldly before the throne of grace and to ask. And so, Lord, I'm just asking for healing for those who need healing. And again, even if there were requests that were not made, but you know that there's places of healing, either physically or mentally or socially, relationally, Father God, you are the healer. And so we just turn to you today, Lord God. Father, I am just so thankful and so grateful that you are the mighty King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And no matter what situation
Yes.
we have going on in our life, that you are able to, you're able to take care of it, and that we can become more than conquerors through your strength, not through ours, but through your strength. Lord, I just take our curriculum for tonight and lay it before you and ask that if there's something you want us to cover instead, that we will. I want to be submissive to the Holy Spirit. And Father God, if there's something that I'm not covering that you want to add. If there's something I'm covering you don't want taught, then just nudge me that that's not for this evening. And Father, again, we dedicate this night to you and thank you for the opportunity just to be able to come and have spiritual conversations and to have a class that is founded on the word of God and is founded upon you. And we ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Okay. Like I said, we have a lot going on tonight. And so I'm going to move a little quickly because we did not get to some very important information last week. And I'm going to go ahead and start there. So actually I have two different PowerPoints, but I'm going to start with finishing off from week 1. Oh, excuse me a moment. I have to go share. And then go PowerPoint. Okay, you know what? It's going to grab the wrong one. Hold it. This happened, I think, last week too. I want week 1. So if I share this, let me see if it pulls up the right one. It did not. Okay, hold on. Let me stop share. And I'm going to have to actually, hold on. I'm going to close out week 2 for right now, and then I'll have to reopen it. Okay, hold on. And we'll try again. And I'm putting it in presentation mode, and we're there, right? We got it? Yay! You would think I practiced enough that it would actually happen. So here we go. All right, so this is a continuation of last week. We didn't get to epistemology. So we're going to talk about epistemology just for a little bit before we go into developing our research questions, which I know is one of the really important elements we need to get to this evening. So what I'd like you to do is take a piece of paper, just a scratch paper, or you could do it on a device if you want as well. We're just going to do a little exercise here as we begin. But I want you to take a piece of paper, or again, whatever format you would like to do, and draw a line down the middle as you see what I have here on the screen. And on the left side, you don't need to write the title. I'm just going to have you, bullet it on your own piece of paper. I want you to write on the left side of that paper, so you have something down the middle. On the left side, just bullet 3 points, so it doesn't have to be full sentences either, just points. What do you know to be true? What do you believe to be true about either Christian discipleship or pastoral counseling? So you've all had these kind of courses. And so what do you believe to be true about either Christian discipleship or pastoral counseling? Or you can do one of one, 2 of the other. So just go ahead and bullet down a couple of items. Then, once you've done that, again, just 3 quick points there. What I want you to do across from each one is I want you to just write, and again, it can be bulleted. How do you know these truths to be true? How do you know that? Okay, do you have 3 and you have written down now how you know them to be true? If so, I'd like a volunteer. You're not going to give me all 3, but just if someone would unmic and tell me one of the truths and how you know it to be true. Who's my first volunteer?
I could go.
Thank you. All right,
Um,
Jonathan.
So I did a Christian discipleship, and I put the Great Commission, right? And I know it to be true because it's biblical,
Okay, so you read it. You read about it.
right?
Awesome. Thank you, Jonathan. Tina, give me one of yours.
Can you hear me?
We can now.
Okay, yes, I did pastoral counseling,
Okay.
and I did that because I work for a pastor and I've seen her compassion and her heart for God's people.
So the truth is, which is the truth?
I don't understand, sorry.
Okay, so what is the truth? So in pastoral counseling, what do you know to be true about pastoral counseling?
Oh, that you have to have a heart for God's people.
Okay, and the way you know that is because then you saw a fellow pastor be that way.
Yes.
So an experience. Okay, great. Thank you, Tina. Thank you for participating. Let's have a couple more. Richard?
I put down for Christian discipleship and pastoral counseling. God gives the increase. And then how I know that, because people learn and understand on their own time, and you can get weary if you don't notice.
So you know it from experience, don't you? Yes, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. How about one more? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Who else came on?
Oh, it was me. I
right.
don't know who else came on.
Why don't we go Angela and then Paul?
Okay, I went with pastoral counseling. I said that having a connection is important. It's true. You have to have a connection with pastoral counseling, and I know that by experience. I was a part of a group where it was counseling. We were being counseled, and we were connected, and we were consistent in that connection, and that helped with our growth and to stay in the race.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Knox?
Yeah, I actually I think this applies to both for pastoral counseling and Christian discipleship. You have to have people's permission to lead them. I think sometimes we can give unsolicited advice and trying to help people who maybe want help, but they don't want help from us. And so I've learned that from experience. I've read that in books and even from mentors of my own who have kind of shared their experience as well. So.
I love that. So you heard about it, but you also have experienced it and you've seen it even in others. Very good. Paul, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all of you for participating. I like that. And just a reminder, because we are such a large class, I love that you guys are raising the hands. That's really helpful. And then also I do have Cindy watching chat for me. And if anybody else finds that somehow I'm lost and not catching you, please just draw attention, because I love that we're a large class. And so I definitely don't want to overlook any of you. So please just help me out with that. I appreciate that. And then once you've answered, if you want to lower your hand, that way we'll know you're not still asking a question. Awesome. Thank you, Richard. Unless you want to have another question. No. Okay. All right. So as we're looking at epistemology, because epistemology is the study of knowing, not what you know, but how you know what you know. And so when you read, and one of the texts that we used to have in this course, remember I told you we had expensive statistic books before. And so we would have read from Earl Babby, who is a social researcher that tells us that we live in the world of two realities. We live in the world of, let me switch the slide here. Again, we're looking at the study of knowing, not what we know, but how we know. And we live in the world of two realities, according to social researchers. And you guys just showed it as we just did that little experiment. We live in the world of agreement, which are the things you consider to be real or true because you've been told they are real or true. And so you've believed them. Now, obviously, at times you've been told things are real or true and you don't believe it. And again, we're going to look at some of those sources of authority in just a little bit. But those are some of the reasons you believe them to be true. You know, even as you were growing up, maybe your parents told you something and you actually believed them. That was before your teenage years, because at that point you probably didn't. And then we also live in the world of experiential, the things that you know to be real or true as a direct result of your experiences, or even as Paul shared with us, he saw that, and others shared too. They saw it in other individuals. Okay, so let's do one more experiment here. How many of you, when you were young, really young, let's say even under 4 years old, as you're learning things, someone in your family, father, mother, someone, an older sibling or whatever, told you, do not touch the stove because it's hot? How many of you, along with me, first lived in the world of agreement that you believed them and did not touch the stove? How many of you were that child? Oh, good. Okay, there's a few of us, right? How many of the others would be willing to say, you were told it was hot, but you did not believe them? You wanted to live more in the world of experiential and you had to touch it. Letitia, thank you for being
every
honest
time.
there. Thank you. All right, and others, again, how many of those were like that? Well, Angela, Paul, Richard. Yeah, Richard, I believe that. Yeah. Janet. Okay, yeah. All right, let's go one step further to today. If you go to a Mexican restaurant and you know they always put the plate down in front of you and they say, don't touch the plate, it's hot. Again, how many of you, like me, do not touch that plate? I don't touch the plate. Thank you. Okay, we got the same ones, right? We just believe them and we don't touch it. All right, are the rest of you still on that other train where you're going to touch that plate? Yeah, yeah. Letitia, why do you touch that plate?
I'm hard-headed.
I thought maybe you were going to say, I want to know how hot. So yeah, I believe them, it's hot, but how hot?
Right. That's part of it. I used to work in the industry, so I've carried many a hot plate. So when a service like it's hot, I want to see how hot it is, just to see.
I love it. So see, it has nothing to be with hard-headed. You're just like, well, how hot is that? You're curious. You are a researcher, my dear. Okay. Yes. So again, we all live. Kim, what is your answer there?
I just wanted to say I'm the oldest. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. I used to push them up to touch when mom said don't. So I kind of was on, I wasn't going to touch it, but I wanted to, see was it hot. So I pushed them up to do it.
You want to see if they got burnt.
Yes.
Kim, I would never have thought that was you. That was not, I have a whole new picture of you now. Thank you for.
I did. I was, yeah. To God be the glory. Thank you for God.
Amen. Amen. That's a whole different story. I made somebody else touch it. I love it. Okay. Yeah. Well, those are the world that we live in, of agreement and then also experience. So science offers us both of these opportunities to learn about society. But scientists, social scientists, also have certain criteria that have to be met before they will accept something as reality or as truth. And so it has to fulfill, where I have this propositional statements down here, it has to fulfill these two different supports. Logical, so it must make sense. And I'm also checking, oh, I love Paul, that was great. Say it ain't so, I love it. Logical support, and then also empirical. And empirical is practical, or the observational aspects of it. So for a social researcher to take the statements to be true and real, it must be supported by logic, and then also by observations, or by reality, okay? So moving on with this epistemology, let's go again. Epistemology is the science or study of knowing, or how we know what we know. Methodology, because we're in research methods here, so the term for methodology is it's a specific procedure or technique, that's being used to identify, select, process, and analyze information about whatever the topic or issue of concern is. Now, I had mentioned that there are some sources of authority that also social researchers will accept. So on the slide here, I have two sides. I have on the left side, what are the human inquiries that they will accept? But also what's listed on the right-hand side of this slide are what are some of the errors? Because as humans, we do err, right? God doesn't err, but we do. As it says down at the bottom, to err is actually human. I'm going to just go over some of these quickly. So here's some of them that, again, social research will accept as a form of saying that a statement or an issue is true. First of all, is your sense experience. And as we know, that's eye, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling. Did I miss one, or is that all five? Did I get all five? It's one of those lists that every time I do it, I'm like, I probably missed one, but that's what they will accept. However, those of us here with glasses can tell you, if I take these off, I don't even know where you guys are. You're all gone to me right now. I see it's very blurry there as I've gotten older. So it's inaccurate. I always love that show where there was the police show was many, many years ago. I only saw it in reruns. I didn't see the originals, okay? No, my brother saw the originals, but it was, and I can't even think of the name of the show right now. It was one of those police shows from the 50s. And they would, and again, I was not born in the 50s, that they would have the person come up and they would say, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. And they would want to know what the facts were, right? Yes, because, or you get one of those shows and the person says, oh, I saw them. I could identify them anywhere. And then they say, well, take your glasses off. And now I'm walking 3 feet back. What color are my eyes? What color is my shirt? And the person's like, let's see, I think you have one pink and one green eye. Yeah, I'm sure of it, So we find that those types of human elements are inaccurate at times. I don't know about you, like me, again, this aging, I always say aging is rude. It's just rude. I know we're to be grateful for it, and I thank God every day for my life, but it's rude. And I'm finding I don't hear as well. I will tell you, one of the good things about teaching on Zoom is I can just turn the sound up. When I teach in person, like I was doing even last night in a classroom, and boy, I would tell you guys, during the pandemic when the masks were on and I couldn't even tell if people were Zoom, and I had to tell them in-person classes, we're gonna have to raise your hand because I don't even know who said that. They'd be in a class talking, who was that? But even last night, I couldn't necessarily hear. Some of them kind of talk a little bit like this too. They talk really quiet, and I couldn't hear them, right? Because my hearing, which was always really good before, is not as good as it was before. So we have some inaccuracies. A couple of the others, logic, if it makes sense. But we know that sometimes when people tell a story, they might over or even under generalize what they saw or what was going on. Okay, this one's always interesting, that people agree on something if you can get a consensus. Now, what is the percentage that gives us a consensus of something? Who knows what that percentage is?
50%.
There, yeah, it just a tad over, right? 50 point. I always wonder what constitutes that point, but yes, isn't that something that they will believe something to be true if at least 50% of the people say it is? Okay, I wouldn't go with that one, right? Because again, on the other side, we have selective observation. There's perspective, there's perception of how something is perceived. And a lot of times it's based on even our the way we were raised or our demographics or our culture, right? So for something to say, oh, this is true, it's like, that's really interesting. Yeah. So again, what we're seeing here is social science does accept these different items, but on the other side, we can see the errors of their ways. Revelation, I'm going to mention this one because we're not talking about the book of Revelation, but we are talking about insight acquired by supernatural means. And I will tell you, when I worked in Borders Bookstore a few years ago, the largest section was actually the metaphysics section of the bookstore. There would be tons of people coming in every day to visit the metaphysics. It was also amazing to me when I worked in the bookstore, how many people would come in, take a book off the shelf and sit down and read it right there instead of purchasing it. And of course, we know Borders is now out of business. I would be amazed. What amazed me even more though, were people who came in and grabbed magazines off the magazine rack, and they would sit there and read them and then read the whole magazine and put it back on, right? But the metaphysics was so popular. And as I was working there and people would ask me, you know, where a book was, and I knew it was in metaphysics section, I would actually take them through the theological department first. And I would show them a few books there on our way to the metaphysical department, you know, and suggest, you know, you might want to try, this is a really good book. It's called Holy Bible, and you might want to look at it. And now let me show you the book you were looking for, right? Yes, yeah. So Revelation, but we can find that there is also sometimes an error in that, because we're not talking about God's revelation. We're just talking about revelation from a very supernatural means out there. Let's go down to this last one, individual authority. Even as some of you said before, well, I heard someone tell me this, I believed them. And with this one, in individual authority, often it's a judgment of a person who has training or expertise or credentials on the matter. You know, we go into court systems and the judge rules something and it's deemed the final word. And we all have situations I'm sure we could look at or we could talk about and say, how that got that way, I don't know. But a judge who was given some kind of degree said that it was true. And so we got to believe it. Or even in classes, you know, someone gets, they're deferred the doctoral degree, and it is a lot of work, but that doesn't mean you're perfect. That doesn't mean you know everything. That doesn't even mean what you're saying. And I shouldn't be saying this since I'm saying it. But you're all intelligent enough to go, that doesn't quite sound right. Maybe I should check it out on my own. But not everybody is at that stage. You're all fellow researchers with me. I know that. I've seen your work. But not everyone is like that. So there is what we have over here, the mystification of residuals, of recognizing that just because someone has a degree or because they've been put up on the court bench or something does not make them 100% accurate. But these are the things that social researchers will accept to say that elements are true or they have reality to them. This is interesting. So here was a study that was done regarding coffee. And what this slide is showing you is that, again, you can't just trust it because research comes out and says this is so or that is so. There has been research that said people who drink coffee are more likely to live. There's also been research that's come out that said people who drink coffee are more likely to die. One of the things I always ask when you're looking at research is, who paid for the research? Who paid for the research? Did Starbucks pay for it? Or if we're talking about coffee here, did the tea bean place pay for it? Or did a doctor pay for it? And actually, if you go later and look at the same PowerPoint, because I have it available to you, if you click on the coffee cup there, there's actually an article that talks about this very thing, that there is some research that will tell you one thing and the exact opposite is said in another research project. So all of that just to say, be very cautious. Be very cautious when you're citing research or statistics. Know where it came from, know your source, know why they're actually putting it out there into society. Okay. Now, let's just take a moment here to wrap epistemology up, and we can't wrap it up without looking at its connection to Christianity. And so here, as believers, we desire to seek the truth for the purpose of enlightening those who do not know truth, and also to be light in the darkness, right? We've gone through that with other classes that I've taught, and as I've mentioned in every class I teach at Vanguard, that all of our courses are based on the Word of God. So epistemology, the study of how we know what we know, and Christianity says we know our truth because all truth is God's truth. And I know you've had other courses that talk about that in more detail. We also recognize, so how do we know that truth that comes from God? Because he communicates his truth with us as followers through both special and natural revelation. The special revelation are the 66 books of the Bible. That's how we know what is true and what's not true. And aren't we fortunate that our God does provide us with his truth? And we don't just have to guess. I mean, if you look at other religions, they're guessing at what truth is. But we don't have to guess because we have a Father who is the creator of the whole universe who has provided the truth for us. But here's the exciting thing too. He also says, I'm going to allow you to find some truth also. I don't want to say additional because it's not in addition to the 66 books of the Bible, because then you would have to shut me down tonight. So it's not in addition, but he does allow us to understand society and humans through our rigorous study of culture, society, organizations, relationships, and our own experiences. As Christian leaders, we, first of all, are learners of God's truth through the scriptures, but then also we are learners of human truth through the various types of environments. And I know we all know that, to be true, that it's okay for us to research or to spend time understanding the individuals that God has given us. And we also all understand that individuals are different. So even starting a whole pioneering church here in Orange County would be very different than pioneering a church in Dallas, Texas, or pioneering a church in Atlanta, Georgia. It's going to be different wherever we are because people are different, societies are different, cultures are different, and I know that we understand that. So here's the exciting part and the bottom line of this. Research methods, so the course we're in tonight and for the next few weeks, provides us with tools. They're just tools. They're just resources that help us to learn from human experience. Now, could our learning be in error? Yeah, it can. I am the first to say that I know when I stand before Christ, my King, and God the Almighty, when I stand before him, I will not be surprised when he says, you know what you believed to be true about and whatever it was? Oh my goodness, girl, I know you believed in earnest, but you were so far off. But you know what? I love you unconditionally because on the cross, when I said it is finished, I loved you perfectly at that point. But your thinking was a little off. And you know what you thought to be true about, and this is interesting because coming from a Pentecostal Bible college, early on in my career, and we were taught certain things about speaking in tongues. And there were certain things I believed about it. And I believe it's true, but I'm going to say there were certain things we believed about how it should be done in services, and we were taught certain ways. And I know when I stand before him and he says, you know what, TJ, the way you believed, part of it was right, and part of it was quite not, because the interpretation just was not quite right. But you believed in earnest, and I know that in your 30s you believed totally different. than that. And then in your 40s, you kind of went a whole different, I don't know where you got that stuff from. But you know what, TJ? I loved you unconditionally. You tried so hard. You were definitely a researcher and a person of earnest and wanted to know what I thought, and you studied the scriptures. But in your finite mind, you had it and then you didn't, and you did and you didn't. But that's okay. But you kept searching and you kept asking me for the truth. And so I kept revealing it. Sometimes your head was a little hard and you didn't get it, girl, but that's okay. I loved you unconditionally. And that's part of this. We are researchers. We're human. We have to first, and I know all of us do here. And this is what's so fun about teaching a class like this in a biblical setting. I know each and every one of us go to God, our creator, first and say, God, give me your wisdom, enlighten my mind, show me how I'm to believe. But then it's our interpretation in our own little finite mind that will take hold of that, right? So there we have the study of how we know what we know and how it aligns with Christianity. So to finish up here, social science research is both systemic, meaning it's planned, orderly, sequenced, a controlled process, and it's scientific, which means it's also an objective process. And we've all had science classes in our lives, whether it was in middle school or high school. I know at one time I wanted to be a scientist. I thought that would have been so cool. But we all know that when you do a science experiment, it is only true at the time of that experiment. When you do the experiment again, you might get the same result or you might get a different result. So science is fluid. It's not static. It's not always true. And so let's just recognize that as we do our own research, we're not the final word. God is always the final word, but our work is fluid and it changes and it's inconsistent at times. But go into it as real researchers and as people who truly want to know, how do we find the truth? Because the truth that we want is to actually help and meet the needs of our constituents. Any questions on that before I move us forward? Nothing in chat. Okay, good, Cindy. Thank you for watching over that for me. Okay, so I'm not going to go a long time here. This is something when you go move into your master's, and I know many of you will, and your doctoral degree, which I know many of you will, and it's a fun process. This is what would be the foundation for your thesis or for perhaps even a dissertation when you get into the research aspect of it. You have your initial problem or issue, which we will talk about in a little bit with our research questions. You then do a review of literature, which we will talk about a little bit later as well, because that's part of your assignment. I talked a little bit about it last week. We'll talk even a little bit more this week to help you get that assignment completed. And then you come up with the question, or I could even put question/statement. Sometimes people like to make that research question more of a research statement, that this is what I'm going to be looking at. Once you do that, you determine the method. Is it going to be quantitative? Is it going to be qualitative? Or is it going to be both? Types of methods that you're going to use to actually find out some information for that question or statement that you have a concern about. You will find your participants. You will determine the measures. You will find what procedures that you want to go through. And you might even in the middle of it make some adjustments and decide, oh, I need to add something or I need to subtract from how I'm going to do this. And then you have your intervention. From that, you come up with the results of the study that you completed. Boy, this is going fast this way because I will tell you, mine took 1.5 years to do. So while this only sounds simple at this point, it can be a long process. But I also will say, I started in my doctoral dissertation, I started one project and was 6 months into it before I realized it was not going to work. I was trying to reinvent a wheel. I wanted to be the first one to be able to answer this question. And 6 months in, because there was no literature to review, my chair and I both came to the conclusion I needed to start all over. Yes, I cried a lot because that was a long time to spend 6 months and not get anything out of it. But he said, you know what? Do what you know. You need to do what you know. And I would say that I bring up that situation to say to you as well, do what you know. I'm trying to think if there's someone in this class. No, I think they're one of my other classes. They have already started a master's program. And they said, should I do a paper on a different topic each time? And I said, well, if you want to go smoothly through it, determine some of the maybe 1 or 2 questions that you want answered and do your papers that way. Paul, I see your hand up.
Yeah, it's just a question because I have been doing a little bit of research about like the different like I guess types of research papers. So it's kind of like what you're saying is like I'm under the assumption that there's 2 types. So,
Yes.
you know, you have like the scientific research paper, but then they have another type of research paper that's different for, you know, philosophy or theology students. But are you saying like no matter what I guess the program is in your master's that you'll have to do something similar to this or?
No, thank you for bringing that up, Paul. You are right. I'm doing this more from a social researcher element that if you were doing it more in a practicum type, say, or leadership studies, thank you for bringing that up. No, if you're doing more heavy theology, your dissertation or your thesis would be different.
But let's say if I was doing like mine, I'm thinking like I may do it for like Christian leadership. Then something like Christian leadership, I would be looking at this. Okay.
This is what you're looking at. Thank you for bringing that up, though. That was a great question. Yes, what we're talking about here is something that's more practical and more in a practicum type way that you're wanting to answer an issue, you're wanting to address an issue, a concern, or a problem. In the theological aspect, more of that line, there you're dealing more with theology, and you're dealing with more addressing maybe something from scripture or a theological issue. So yes, this is going to be more in, and this is even more qualitative most of the time, because in this type of research, even like with leadership, we usually want to know why people are doing what they're doing. We don't even really want to know how many of them are doing it. That always helps, but we want to know why are they doing it, or why are they not doing it? Or
And they're expecting your like this, you know, everything that you'll be doing, like your method, they're expecting that to be like authentic, something that you come up with, kind of like what you were saying. Like, are they expecting that to be sort of out of the box, or just a research method that you came up with, or you can use
no, you're going to be
proven
taught all
methods?
that.
Oh,
What's
okay,
going to happen
okay.
when you do this? So that's why I'm just giving you the overview right now. We don't really do it at Vanguard here, but when you get into a master's program, Paul, then you're going to take statistics. And when hey, you know what? I love statistics. I've taught pure statistics. In fact, in the doctoral degree, my statistical professor would use me as his substitute teacher. I would always I'd get so excited. And that was at Pepperdine. He would, whenever he was absent, he would call me in to teach the statistic class. But I do love math too. I actually do love math. It's not that difficult if you have a really good professor. It's not that difficult. Don't freak yourself out. Don't freak yourself out. And here's the thing too, in today's society, Paul, there are so many statistical packages that help you. When I went through, we were not allowed to use statistical packages. We had to create the zeros and the ones and the X's and the O's and we had to create everything from scratch. I know, you're like, is she really that old? Yeah, I am. Yeah. And here's a side note. This was the sad part. So working on the doctoral dissertation, I'd been working for months. And back in the day when we had the little 3.5, they were called 3.5 floppies, but remember they didn't flop. Remember those, the little discs, and you had to format them. Does anybody else remember having to format them? They did not come format. Thank you. Thank you, Janet. And those of you who are laughing along with me, thank you. And so to do a whole dissertation, we're not talking one, flash drive. Do I even have one here? One flash, right? No. We're talking like 36 of those little discs. And I'm almost completing copying it. Oh, and you couldn't do it from home. You didn't get to do it from home. You had to go to, so every time I did, I had to go to Pepperdine and use their computer lab. We're talking early days, and do it all on there. I'm almost done. And the computer crashed. I lost everything. And it was getting time for my dissertation that I was having to show my work. I had to go back the next day. Yeah, there was more crying that day too. So I had to go back the next day, but I couldn't go to the one close to me. I had to drive all the way to Culver City. Not to Malibu, but to Culver City. And for the next 7 hours, I sat there and re-inputted over 11,300 and some odd entries from my handwritten surveys to get it back up and running. So, but all I want to say to you also, Paul, is that in that statistics class, and depending upon whether you're more leadership, so if you're more practical or with the other, they're going to teach you those methods. They're going to teach you what methods, but nowadays you're going to have statistical packages that you're just going to be inputting stuff and it's going to kind of crunch it for you.
I was just trying to get away from math altogether, but I guess I could do one more. Mhm.
You can do it, sir. I have every faith in you. You can do it. And you know what I always say to you guys, if you do get really stuck on something, find a tutor. Get a tutor. There's so many tutors out there today. And I know even in like at, I don't know about Vanguard part of the online traditional, but at Santa Ana, we have now online tutors for every single class you take with us. If it's an online class, there's a tutor and it's a free tutor. So look for that when you get to wherever it is that you're going. So don't freak out about it today. Just know this is what's going to happen. This is the process. It's usually a 4 or a 5 chapter paper, not paper, but almost like a book. Mine's over in another room right now. You come up with the results and then you write up your conclusions and how that research can be used. You also, in your conclusions, put in there what some other research other individuals could do based off of your foundation, what you did. And I highly suggest that. If someone else has already done some work, find out what they're suggesting. What would be another step? What's another angle to look at this research and maybe even write off of that a little bit? All right, so that's something you're going to do. The last part of this will be going through ethics, but what I'm going to do here is stop this one. And I'm now going to do, let me, I have to go back into PowerPoint. So give me just a moment while I bring up that second one now. I want to bring up week 2. And now I need to close down week 1. All right. And now I'm going to do, is there anything in chat that I need? All right, we're working good. I love a chat that's filled with things. I love that. Love when you're chatting. Okay, PowerPoint. Well, unless you start telling jokes or something to each other and you're not listening. No bueno. Okay. All right, here we go. It's coming up. It's coming up. All right. Research methods, week 2. And so here's our, for the evening, we would finish week 1, which is partly what we did. We have one more slide for week 1. Then we will be looking at library research. Several of you last week said that you had not received the training in the library, Vanguard Library. So I'm going to go over a little bit of that for you as well to help you. And then literature review, we're going to go over that a little bit more. But the main thing, I'm just going to do that a little bit because my main objective right now, I'm pulling papers out of a notebook. Hold on. Getting week 2. It's only that thick. What? Okay. We're going to go quickly through it. Nikki, I love your eyes. They're so good. Like, research question development is where I want to get to, because I know that's really important to all of you, because that's also going to be your foundation for your week 4 assignment and also your week 5. So that's the goal, is to get us there. We're at 6:27 right now, and we're going to do a portion of that in a breakout session in a little bit. So that's what we're doing right now. Okay. All right, so again, with any research that you do, now not for our class, but any serious research you do, it's important that you provide what's called the Code of Ethics in your study. And the Code of Ethics has been determined by the American Sociological Association, and it concerns itself with the treatment of the subjects that you're going to be working with. And it actually includes federal regulations and ethical guidelines that are actually followed by professional social science organizations and also by the universities. So like Vanguard, when we're doing research, at a higher level, we have to, especially in the masters or beyond, we have to state that the research being done will follow these criteria right here. That research should cause no harm to its subjects. Now, sometimes subjects do get harmed, but that your intent is that you would not cause harm, both physically or mentally, to individuals. And those are things you have to think through. So you have to think the questions that you're developing. Even through our class here, we're not really going to be reaching out to too many people except in your interviews or focus groups, but you want to make sure that the questions that you are developing, even for that week, would not be harmful to anyone, okay? Also, that the participation in your research, again, let's not just think of this class, but moving beyond, would be voluntary. Individuals would never be coerced into doing research for you or participating in your research. So subjects must give informed consent to participate. I had to actually have people sign a paper for the doctoral dissertation ones. Others, they can just state that because they participated with you, that you were given their consent. So there's different ways you can do that. The researcher should fully disclose their identity. So again, I'm going to use my doctoral dissertation as a basis for much of this tonight, is that I had to tell them exactly who I was and the intent of my research. For what purpose would I be using the findings? Okay. Anonymity or confidentiality must be maintained for individual research participants unless they waive it, unless there's some reason that they actually waive their participation. Where that kind of comes in sometimes is in longitudinal surveys or longitudinal studies. So for some individuals that have been in a study for maybe 10, 15, 20 years, sometimes they actually will let their name be known. Most of the times not, but did any of you guys see that movie years ago called Boy? Did anybody watch that? No? I will tell you, if you want to see a really interesting movie, write that down. It's spelled B-O-Y, as in boy. Yeah. Thanks, Richard. Okay, it's long. You guys, it is a long movie. But if you want to see someone who's done a longitudinal study, Boy is the movie to watch. Here's the other element. When I first watched it, I didn't know it was a longitudinal study. And so I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I can't believe how much that young boy, they really got a young boy that looks like that older guy. That is amazing. And then when I found out, oh, this movie had been made over 10 years. Over 10 years. And so that's what I'm saying. If you're, if you have like a whole weekend sometime, I think it's like 3 hours long, that this movie, they've done it really well. And it was a study on this one young boy's, his rite of passage from young boyhood into manhood. The reason he looks so much like each other is it is the same guy. Okay. Sometimes it takes me a while to catch on to things. All right. Then also in the ethics, you have to look and see that the benefits from your research project should outweigh any foreseeable risks of why you're doing the research that you are doing. So let's do a little, this is not our breakout here. This we're going to all do together here. Let's look at this from the point of ethics. Here is the case study. Charlotte wants to research the effect of labeling students, either gifted or struggling, on their achievement in second grade. She proposes that students in elementary school second grade be divided into reading groups in which ability levels, and how are those determined? By previous test scores, are evenly mixed. One group, so look at that again, okay, so they're going to be divided evenly, determined by their previous test scores. But one group is going to be told they're gifted readers. Another group will be told they're struggling readers. And a third group will be told nothing at all. Charlotte theorized that by the end of the second grade year, the students in the gifted level group will outperform those in the struggling group on the same reading test. So now here's some questions for you. One, when things like this are proposed in different study arenas, especially in universities, they put together groups that are called institutional review boards. So I'm gonna commission you right now to be on a institutional review board with me. As we see this, so Charlotte is actually sending this proposal to you and me, we're on this board. This is what she wants to do. So you, as part of the review board, here are questions I want you to ponder upon for a moment. What additional information might you want to know about the study in order to decide whether or not we're going to approve for Charlotte to do this research? That's a mouthful, so I'm going to stop here for a moment and let you think about that. You might read through that case study again. What additional information do you want Charlotte to provide you on this study?
I think I want to know, I don't think I see it in here. I think I want to know how long the study's going to be for.
Good, good question.
And Professor, you said before they do the research, right? What
Yes,
questions
this
we
is
want to
before the
know?
research
Okay.
is done. We're a review board at the site where Charlotte wants to do her research. And we're a review board. So she's having to get permission from us to actually continue this research.
Mm.
And so she brought this to us. Here's what she's proposing. And now we're saying, well, Charlotte, we also want to know how long. And that was a great question, Paul. We want to know how long are you going to do this? What else do you want to know? Yes. Angela?
What, I would want to know, like, do we have permission from the parents? Is it okay with the parents if we do this?
Great question, Angela. That
How
goes
are
back
What are
to
we
that
gonna
ethics.
do about the struggling students?
Tell me a little bit more about that, Tina. What are you saying?
Because I see that by the end of the case study that the gifted students will be they will outperform the struggling students. So are we gonna look into the struggling students or do we leave them as is?
So look at what it's saying here. Charlotte thinks her research statement, her hypothesis, let's go with that. Her hypothesis is that because this one group has been told that they are gifted, but they're not necessarily all gifted, but just because they've been told that at the end of the year, the gifted will outperform. This is her hypothesis. But I like
Because
the-
of the assumption of being gifted. Got you.
because they've been told that. But I do like, Tina, I think you hit on something else though. What are some of the items that they're going to actually be doing? Maybe in the groups, maybe that we want to know. What are some of the activities?
I would like to know, why are we labeling the children? Why are we telling them
Okay, so
the reason for them being in the group?
so as
why are
part
we
of yours,
telling-
Kim, of what is the purpose of this research? Is that one of the things you're thinking? Why are we even doing this?
Why are we telling the students, you're gifted, and these over here are not gifted, and these over here are struggling?
Because her hypothesis is if you tell someone that they're gifted, they will perform as gifted. That's what she's saying in here. One group's going to be told they're gifted, another group's going to be told they're struggling, but they're not necessarily
that-
struggling.
So
They've
then
been
that
divided
means,
evenly. Mhm.
if you tell the gifted that they're gifted, when you tell the strugglers that they're struggling, are they going to continue to struggle because you say,
That's her hypothesis.
yeah,
That's her hypothesis. So so I was thinking your question was, let's go back to ethics. Should we be labeling? I thought that's where maybe you were going with this. Is
right?
we be labeling?
Should we be labeling and letting them know that we're labeling them?
Which is part of her research. That's part of what she wants to do.
Because she's
Mhm.
verbally speaking to them and telling them you're gifted and you're going to be even better at the end, but you're struggling, so you're going to continue to struggle. So what does the strugglers have to look forward to? I mean, you already done told them you're not gonna make it.
Right? And that's why we are deciding as the review board, would we even allow this?
Yes.
Cindy?
I'm just reading out Sam's note. Could the subject being researched be emotionally or mentally harmed by stating that they are struggling readers? Not sure if that's a good question.
Very good, Sam. Jennifer, were you gonna pop onto that one too? Was that part of what you were thinking?
It was just what was going to be the lasting effect after the study is done on the kids.
Which we're kind of now moving into, and I like that you guys are moving there already. We kind of moved into the next question. What are the benefits that will result from this research? Is there any benefits to it at all? Or what are potential harms? And we do know that when you speak something over someone, I mean, we know that because coming even from a biblical perspective, we know what scripture says about speaking words and declaring things, that there could be potential harm, right? And even as we said, even some of the strugglers, they tested gifted. So now you put them in the struggling group and now you've told them they're struggling readers. Will they be more harmed at the end and not performing as they normally would have because we've told them? Yeah. So now let's go to this last part. So if you were on the IRB reviewing this proposal, let me ask you this way, and let's go with, we have our reactions there. Give me a thumbs up. How many of you would, and I'm going to go the way I think you're going to go anyway. How many of you would reject this proposal?
Wait, thumbs up means we would reject, or
Thumbs up,
Thumbs
that,
down.
I said that kind of negative, huh, Jonathan? I'm sorry. If you give me
Yeah.
a thumbs up, you're saying, Charlotte, we don't think you should do this. Or not, we don't think you should. Charlotte, you're not going to do this research. If we give me a thumbs up, that means, yeah, we're not approving it. Yeah, I should have had it do that way. Thank you, Jonathan. I like that. I forgot we had thumbs down. Yes, right. So this is just a taste for you to see that some people have great ideas, and we don't know. I don't even know Charlotte. It's actually just a case study that that we have in one of our statistic books. So it's just a case study here to see that not all research is good. It's not all beneficial. There are some things that should not be done. And we can go back in history and look at research that was done. If you look at research that was done in the 50s and 60s in our schools, woo, there was some harm that was done, and one of the classes I teach at Santa Ana College is child growth and development. And one of the theorists, and gosh, I can't call his name right now. It starts with a B, Bandera. Yes, I can. Don't tell me I can't. Bandera. How many of you remember, if you had a child psychology class, that Bandera was the one who put children in a room and they watched the teacher with that bozo doll and the teacher hit it with a hammer. And then when the teacher went out, the children hit it with a hammer. And every time I show that in my classes, the students today, especially today, were like, well, you can't do that. But they did, because he wanted to show that role modeling was so important. There wasn't another way to do that than letting kids have a hammer and beat the bozo doll. Do you guys remember that bozo doll the Bobo doll that you would hit it and it would bounce? Yeah, it's like, who? But back then they probably didn't approve research. They just did it. They just did it, So I am glad that we do have ethical standards today, and things still get biased, don't they? There's still research out there that causes a lot of harm. We're not going to do that. We don't want to do that. Cindy?
Yeah, it's like now there's more, I guess, red tape now before, things can happen. And honestly, it might not even necessarily be a good thing with all the red tape, because I don't know if anyone has ever heard of a teacher, a grade school teacher back in like the 60s. Her name is Jane Elliott, and she did an experiment on her students, not without any approval, obviously, but it was the day after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, and she wanted so bad to teach her children racism because she had a classroom full of, white kids. And so how could she explain racism to kids who haven't really experienced that. And so she literally just started in where she tells them, oh, okay, I need all the, I forgot exactly how she did it, but she basically segregated the brown haired kids from the
It was
blonde haired
actually
kids.
blue eyes and brown eyes.
Oh, brown eyes and blue
Blue eyes and
eyes.
brown eyes.
And yeah, and then she says, I found out that, the blue eyes are smart and the browns aren't, or something like that.
Yes.
And then you see the shift, and she had it videotaped too, recorded. And it showed how suddenly now the brown eyed kids were being treated differently. And then after lunch, she flipped the script and she says, that was not right. Actually, it was the brown eyes that were smart, and it was the blue eyes. And she saw the shift where it's like they just accepted them not being, good enough or being better than the other group. And so, so sometimes red tape will prevent something like that. That was a powerful lesson from happening. But at the same time, it also, stop a lot of crazies from happening too. So,
And thank you for sharing that, because we also have to realize something done with small children. I kind of would want to research that same group of children that went through, because that was a real story that really happened years later, and how it affected them even years later when someone did that. And again, we know the power of words, and we know how that can actually be so demeaning to someone. And that's where we want to just be careful, whatever type of research you're doing. And sometimes we may do something innocently and not realize how we are harming people. I think we have to always stop and think, what harm can we cause by the words we're speaking, but also by the research that we are. I'm getting a signal right now that my internet connection is unstable. So if for some reason I disappear, hang on here and I come back, because it has happened a couple of times to me in the last year, and we are under a power grid thing here that that's happening. So I just got that on my screen here. Yes, we just want to be careful. So the caution here is just be careful. The research you're doing, be very careful. And with small children, they are so impressionable, and that could run someone for life. But also with adults, it can happen. It can happen with adults. And I remember even as a youth pastor, how impressionable, and I was trying to even show our kids how impressionable, if every time students came in and everybody agreed to say the walls were black, but they weren't. But it was amazing that if you did that 5 or 6 weeks in a row, other students, especially in like that middle school era or age group where they're wanting to be liked, are finally going, well, maybe the walls maybe they're not white. It's like, no, people, no, you can see that wall. That wall is white or whatever color it is. Don't let somebody else change your perception, but it will, because that's again where they are at that point in their life. So all of this to say, be careful. Just be careful how you use individuals in your own research as you go along, even at churches, as we take, we're like, oh, that's a simple survey. Is it? Is it a simple survey? Is it necessary? Will it meet the needs of whatever it is that you're wanting to accomplish? And check and chat. Okay, good. Yeah. Good point,
Professor, can
Sydney.
I say something?
Of course you can.
I feel like today in society, we're already doing that to our children. I feel like a lot of the times our children get tested and the professor doesn't really, well, in the testing that I've seen for my children, when they get tested, I don't see like the professor sitting down with me and be like, your son is lacking in this area. Let's work together to improve in this area. It's rather more where they are. And it's like pointing, okay, you're not doing so well, and that's it. And they're labeling them. Same thing with SATs. I feel like, hey, if you don't get good SATs, you can't go into a good school. It's all about that labeling, and I feel it's already set. So I feel like if these kind of researches are done to prove that labeling is harmful, I think that it could be something good. So labeling can also be removed from schools. I feel like that's sometimes teachers and like the structure of schools already labeling our children. So I mean, like, I know it can be harmful, but for some reason, I just feel like, you know, if it's done properly, where you can sit down the child and be like afterwards, hey, this was just an experiment. You don't, like, if you explain to them, you know, this is not who you are. This was just a test. Afterward, I think, and we use the research outcomes to show the schools that we shouldn't be labeling our children with tests.
Thank you, Melissa, for sharing your perspective. I know it's a tight walk, isn't it, of how to do that and whether we should. So the question is, you do want to weigh though, is the harm going to be more? Is it going to be stronger than the benefits? And if it is, then you don't. I will tell you too, because I do teach future educators at Santa Ana College. That's one of the classes I teach, and I stress and stress and stress to them: do not label children. Don't label anybody. Don't label anybody. None of us want to be labeled, right? Do not label them. And one of the things I would say, Melissa, and to all of you here, I know it's kind of a sidebar here. If you have children in the system, or you have siblings, or you have cousins, or you have, you know someone in there, make sure they have an advocate. Make sure there's somebody that is advocating for them. And so when you go there and they do want to label your child, you then step up, and you have every right to do this, and say, how are you going to help us? Where is the help coming from? And so really stress that with them of, okay, if you want to say that my child has this, and especially in public schools, they're supposed to have tools and resources to move that child from that position. So always ask for them to tell you and to show you, how then are you going to help us? Yeah, but I'm just not into labeling. I don't like labeling at all. And I try to not label any of my students, even at a college level, because once you get, I've been labeled before at times, and once you get labeled, it's so hard to get unlabeled. We have enough issues in life, but always ask for help. Get someone to help you. All right, moving on here. So literature review, but thank you all for participating and sharing. I appreciate your input. That's what makes classes awesome and great. So a literature review, as we kind of talked a little bit last week, is a search and evaluation of what available literature is there in your given subject or in the chosen topic area. And a literature review has 4 main objectives. And remember, this PowerPoint is available to you, so I know you're not trying to write all this down because you have all this information already. And each one of these, when you actually open up the PowerPoint, it's going to have links for you to take you to an article. A literature review has 4 main objectives. Again, remember, this was chapter 2 of that thesis or dissertation you're doing. It surveys the literature in your chosen area of study. So again, and it's not going to be done in one day. It's not going to be done in a week. I will tell you again, as I was working on that dissertation, it took months. It took months to look through and see. And what I was looking at was pastoral leadership. That was my dissertation, was on pastoral leadership. And so I went and spent months, and not just at the Christian, universities. I was at UCI, I was at other ones. I was going to say Fuller, but I guess that one is considered Christian as well sometimes. But looking everywhere you could. It's a lot easier nowadays because, as I mentioned before, I didn't have the internet to do it. I had to actually go and do this. So a literature review will survey the literature, and then it will synthesize the information in the literature into a summary for you. That's what you're going to bring it down to. Your chapter 2 is going to say, here's what's out there. Here's what I found. Here's what the experts say. And as I mentioned last week, as you're working on a thesis or a dissertation, nobody cares what you think. That's what my chair used to always tell me. Nobody cares what you think, TJ, at this point. After we declare you with your certification, then we care. But right now, we don't care. But what are the experts saying? And that's what a lit review is. What are the experts saying about whatever topic it is or subject that you are studying? It then critically analyzes the information gathered by identifying gaps in the current knowledge. So what is it we're wanting to know? Go find out what is already known, but where is that gap then? And maybe that's what you're going to fill in the research that you're going to do. Maybe there's limitations in the theories. Maybe there's limitations in the different points of view. And then you're going to formulate, where do I need to do further research, or where can I come in with the subject I want to work with that will fill that gap of what I found in the literature research. And then you're going to present it in a very organized way. So
got a
what is
question.
it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Me too. Yep.
go for it. Richard?
Oh, so what if you do the research and you might not necessarily agree with what you're reading. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like say something, say you read something in the Bible and it says one particular thing. Then you do your research and you see like somebody else is saying maybe like what they see, and that's the only thing that you really see. You know, that's the only research that you kind of come across. And so how can you take a position like this is what they're saying, but this is what I'm saying, or you have to
You
just
don't say in a
scratch the whole
literature
thing?
review, you don't say what you're saying in a literature review. You're only showing, you're gonna do that later. You're gonna show in the research, if we're looking at like a thesis or dissertation, the chapter 2 is only what do experts say? And chances are you're not gonna only find one perspective. Because almost any, if you just Google search something or Google Scholar, and you put, let's say I put pastoral leadership in there, I'm gonna come out with over 1 million hits. There's over 1 million articles and books and things out there, what people think about pastoral leadership. So what you're going to do, and you obviously can't put 1 million into chapter 2, and here's the thing I would say, don't pick and choose things that are just your opinion or just your perspective. You want to show, here's what the experts are saying in this field. So whatever the topic is that you're looking at, you're just right now just saying, this is what's out there. This is what is being presented. Later on, chapter 5, when you give the conclusion, that's when you're going to state, after you've done the research, you're going to state your opinion in chapter 5.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Paul,
Yep.
what was your question?
So, well, yeah, I kind of got two. Just the one that just came off of the answer that you gave, but when you start to talk about like the literature review, so are we talking about like research, like we will literally be going to look at research that other people did, or would it be a combination of like, research that people did and books people wrote on the subject as well? Like it could be both, or is it one?
No, it's all that.
It's all of it, all
In fact,
together. Okay.
let's watch this little clip here and see if it answers that. And if not, we'll address it even a little bit more. Let me know. I tried this earlier and it worked, but you know how technology goes. And again, I can hear it on my end, but you let me know if you can't hear it on your end. Okay, here we go. It's very short.
In her psychology classes, Katie often heard terms such as review the literature or literature review. At first, she was a little confused by these terms. If she needed to conduct a literature review, did that mean she needed to look at novels with psychology-related topics? Katie soon learned that in the academic world, the term literature is often used to describe the collective body of scholarly works related to a topic. The literature usually consists of scholarly books or articles published in academic journals. When Katie was told she needed to review the literature, this meant that she needed to find previously published scholarly works that were relevant to her topic. Katie learned that there were several reasons to conduct a literature review. First, looking at previously published sources helped her to gather ideas or information related to her topic. It helped keep her up to date on current trends and major findings related to her interests, and it helped her to develop new research questions. Katie found that she was usually required to include a literature review section whenever she wrote a research paper. In this part of her paper, she would summarize previous research related to her topic and show how this was connected to her own research. Katie also learned that, in some cases, the term literature review is used to refer to a specific type of scholarly paper. In this case, the author does not usually conduct an original research experiment. Instead, the entire purpose of the paper is to summarize and analyze the literature on a topic. To sum up, in the academic world, literature is a term often used to refer to all of the previous scholarly works on the topic. In a research paper, the literature review is the section of the paper where the author summarizes previous research that is relevant to the topic. While research papers usually contain literature reviews, a paper that is only a literature review is not usually considered a research paper.
Did that kind of answer the question there?
It did. It answered that one for sure. And then I guess the second question that kind of came from your answer, to Richard was just like you said, you looking up a subject like, pastoral leadership or something, you get 1 million hits. So I guess from that video, the question would be like, how do you determine what's relevant then to your research? Because to me, like it's hard for me to just kind of fathom that. I'm like, how I'm supposed to look at 1 million hits and then decide what's relevant for me to put in mine. And then here I am, I think I got this brilliant idea, like, oh yeah, I'm finna hit on this. And then it's 1 million books about that too that I just haven't read or came across, So I'm thinking big and broad, and I'm like, how do you bring it here,
Paul, are you and I working together tonight? I mean, am I gonna have to send you a check? Because
I'll
you're just
take it.
segueing me right into the next part, brother. Love it. Feeling it. Okay. That's exactly where we're going in just a few minutes. I'm going to show you exactly how, one of the next slides is, how do I determine which resources are credible and which are not? There's going to be a slide coming up on that. But before that, Miss Patty.
So I think I have a question or maybe a comment. The research that we are doing or that we want to do, the research question, it is the continuation of somebody else's thought pattern or research. Is that correct?
Well, I say that, give me a little bit more on that because I
So if a doctor is saying they're talking about the online community, what are the benefits of having an online community post COVID, right?
Okay.
So, and I say, I want to do the continuation of that research. So my question would be, why wouldn't you have a online community post COVID? It's the continuation of thought. Is that correct?
Yes and no, and we're going to get into how you word your questions in a little bit as well, because your research statement is not going to be just why wouldn't we? You could still even use the same question that they used of what are the benefits of an online community post-pandemic. So you could still even use that same research statement or question. You could word it the same way or word it differently. What you would do, and now again, not for our class, we're not going to have time to do a full lit review. I'm talking major research. If you're doing major research, you're going to go out there and see what did the experts say about online communities post-pandemic. Now, Tina, with that, you are going to run into a little bit of the problem I ran into of not finding as much material as you're wanting because we're only a year out, pretty much. We're just a year out. So the question I was looking at that I had to redo to kind of bring it to a perspective there is, and again, I was doing my doctoral dissertation in the latter part of the 80s, late 80s. So technology wasn't, and I've always been a tech fiend. I love technology. I wanted to look at what were the benefits of technology in a Christian college at that time. There wasn't any. There wasn't any. So when I went to look at the review of literature, there wasn't any. There literally wasn't any. And that's why I kept looking and looking and looking. Then I had to refine it. And that's when my chair said, do what you know. And I'd been in ministry for so many years already. And as I mentioned last week, I was concerned about those individuals who had spent 6 years in Bible college and seminary on staff at churches. Because remember, I did it on mainline denominational, even though I was Foursquare, but I wanted to do it on mainline because they were the ones that were leaving the ministry right and left after getting a senior position. I wanted to see what were the pastoral skills that were necessary to pastor the church into the 21st century. Then my second question to that was, what were you trained in those same skills? So my literature review was to go out and see what were the experts saying were the pastoral skills that were necessary to be a successful pastor. So I had to go out and look for those and find, and Richard, that's even then when some would say this was a pastoral skill that was necessary, team building. And team building was kind of new in the late 80s, early 90s. Some of you will remember that. Before that, your senior pastor was pretty much a lone soldier. I remember even teaching, my first teaching was at Life Bible College, 87. And when I taught that all the members of the body of Christ were supposed to be in ministry, they didn't like it. They're like, no, I'm the senior pastor. now we teach it, it's like, duh, yeah, everybody has a gift and they should all be part of it. So when I started looking at what were the skill sets that a senior pastor needed, I was looking at all the different, as we saw here, books, articles, other research that had been done saying, these are the skills. And I came up with 15 skills. I didn't necessarily come up with them. That's what the expert said. These are the 15 skills. Now I could have done 10, I could have done 20, but I don't know why, went with 15. These are the 15 skills necessary. Again, second question was, because we're looking for gap, were those senior pastors trained in those 15 skills? And back then in seminary, we didn't have classes like this. Vanguard, I'm going to tell you, it was Southern California College at the time. Southern California College / Vanguard was one of the first master's programs to have a class in leadership, in management, in spiritual gifting. And they were, the word Vanguard is forerunner. They were forerunners in those types of classes. Seminaries were not teaching pastoral leadership. They were teaching exegeting of scripture. It was more the theological that we were talking about before. So those were the things I had to be looking for to then say, okay, now there's a gap. And I will tell you just quickly that of those, so I sent out 1,000 surveys, hand done. Okay, 1,000 surveys. There was no internet at that time to do it. I received back by the deadline 500. That's a big survey, which said people wanted to participate. I received more after the deadline, but 500 by the deadline replied back to me. And of the 15 skills, 12 of the 15 came in at 90% or higher that they needed them. So communication, team building, pastoral counseling, and other things like that. Yes, we need them. Second part, were you trained in seminary? I'm talking mainline denominational, Methodist, Lutheran, Presbyterian. There were 5 of them. I always forget 2 of them. Were you trained? Ready? Remember, 12 of the 15 skills came in that 90% or higher, we need them. The same 12 came in at 20% or less that they were trained in those skill sets in seminary. Big gap. We need them. We're not trained in them. So then my recommendation was to the seminaries, you need to have programs like we have right here, leadership programs that are training individuals for ministry, because you exegete once or twice a week usually, but you lead and pastoral type leadership 7 days a week. And those things are necessary. So I don't know if that kind of helps you out a little bit too of what you're looking for. So what I did in those months of literature review is just soaking up everything about pastoral leadership, other people's research. And I would tell you, what is so cool is after you've written like a dissertation and somebody sends you an email and says, thank you, I used your dissertation in my chapter 2 lit review. And you're like, what? That's awesome. Like, okay. They're like, yeah, it didn't answer any question. No, they didn't say that. They didn't say that. I just threw that in for fun. I knew Richard would like that one. So, the stuff you did was trash. No, no, it's been used in a couple of different ones, and that makes you feel, so good. There's jumping off points for people to use that. So I don't know if those answered the questions that you had at that time. If not, we'll keep answering questions. But what I do want to take you, we're after 7 right now, and I'm trying to push to get you out by 8, which is our time. I want to take you to the library. So again, if we were in person, we would walk over to the library. We would leave our classroom, walk over to the library, and one of the research assistants would help us. But we don't have that opportunity here, but I am going to take you to the Vanguard Library. So give me a moment to do let me go back here for a moment. Let me go do a new share. Come on.
Professor, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So I know a little recently, or in fact, I think you had said that you could do like what they call a theological research, and like I guess it could be like something out of the Bible, like a question or something. Or
If you're in that program, if you're in a master's program for theology, So that's one of the things you think about. Like all of you right now are in the leadership, the pastoral leadership track, right?
Okay, so that's what this has to be about, right? Pastoral
That's if
leadership.
you're in a practicum type, and it's not just for pastorals, if you're doing any kind of if you're in a master's program that's more of practical, like
Okay.
leadership is a very practical type thing. If you go into others, and it's not in just religion, we're just talking that because that's where we come from right now. But if you go more theological studies, you won't be doing this type of research. You would be doing a whole theological paper. You'd do something, you're going to do it differently. And they will teach you how to do that. They'll train you how to do that. But because we are all in pastoral leadership here, I'm going more the practical route and showing you.
And this research question that's to be put on the discussion, that's what this needs to be geared towards.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Oh,
So
okay.
let me push through this. And
right,
I want to
sorry
get us
about
to
that.
the point where we're talking about your research question. I'm hoping to get there in the next 10 to 15 minutes because we have a whole Jamboard to do. Well, hopefully, if we get that far. We do need to get that far because I want to help you with that research question. So let's move forward here a little bit. But I've taken you to the Vanguard Library. And also, again, in this PowerPoint, there's a link that will take you here. So when you go to the Vanguard Library, you can actually click on video Library 101 video tutorials. Okay. And so we're just going to watch a few of them. They're only about 2.5 minutes long each one. And I'm hoping it works. I tested it by myself. So let's see if it still works. Here's how to search the just basic VanCat, which is the Vanguard catalog. Okay, here we go. And somebody let me know if it's not working on your end.
Hello. So in this tutorial, you'll learn how to search VanCat. VanCat is a great resource for print and electronic books, DVDs, music scores, and many other types of items. The VanCat search box is easy to find. It's right on the library homepage. Just scroll down a bit and here it is. You can search VanCat by title, topic, or author. I want to find books on the topic marijuana. So I'm going to type in the keyword marijuana in the search box. Now I'll just click search VanCat. This search retrieved a lot of items. When your search results are this big, I recommend that you try and narrow down your search as much as you can. That is when filters come in handy. Filters are just additional qualities that you're looking for in your resource. The filters for VanCat are located over here on the left side of your screen. As you can see, there are a variety of ways you can narrow down your search. Under Format, I'm going to select Print Book because I only want to see what print books are available for me to check out. My search just went from about 25,909 items down to 48. Now I'll just look at the titles and see what looks good. The book, Cannabis, The Explosive Rise of the Medical Marijuana Industry sounds promising. If the book looks good, check to see if the item is available for checkout. As you can see here, this one is available. To locate this item, you will need to write down the location of the item, main stack's first floor, and the call number. The call number is a combination of letters and numbers and works like your home address. It is a unique identifier that will help you find the book on the shelf. You guys might have noticed that you can technically find journal articles in VanCat. The other librarians and I always recommend doing a direct search in one of the article databases, like Academic Search Ultimate, when doing a search for peer-reviewed journal articles. Those databases were built to help you find articles, so there are more features available to help you find what you need. Thanks for watching this video. If you ever need help finding resources, please don't hesitate to contact library staff. Remember, we are here to help.
Okay, now you're still seeing my screen, right? Making sure we're still on the same one. I'm sorry, I have to laugh. I actually had sent an email to the librarians last time. So I did show a few of these last year, a year ago, I taught this class. And I said, seriously? This is Vanguard University of Bible College. And you did it on marijuana? I mean, they created that video. I'm like, that's the topic you actually picked. And they haven't changed it. It's obvious they haven't changed. So I'm sorry. I had to laugh because I'm like, really? All righty. Humor me. Now I'm going to show you just a few more databases that would help you. This one is searching EBSCO database, and I'm only gonna do just the basic one here. And then you can always come in later and see how to cite and email articles in that academic search as well. But let's just do the basic here.
Hello. So in this tutorial, you'll learn how to find articles in the database Academic Search Ultimate, which is one of the many EBSCO databases we have at Vanguard. This is a great database to search to find articles for your research. To begin your research, always go to the library website and not Google. Once on the library website, scroll down the library homepage to the Databases and Electronic Resources section. There, under A, I'll find the database Academic Search Ultimate. This is a multidisciplinary database, which basically means it has articles covering a wide range of subjects. All I need to do is click on the link, and that will direct me to the Academic Search Ultimate Advanced Search page. So once on the search page, you will type in one keyword per search box. Library databases are not like Google, where you can type in a full sentence in the search box. If you did that, you'll get few to zero results. That is where keywords come in. Keywords are the main concepts for your topic. My research topic for today is marijuana use in treating cancer patients. So my keywords would be marijuana and cancer. Just be careful. The more keywords you type in with the connector and, the smaller your results will get. The next thing I'm going to do is add some filters. Filters help narrow down your search results. The two filters you will always want to use are full text and peer review. You always want to select full text because you're telling the database to only retrieve the articles in which you have access to the full text. Otherwise, you'll get articles with only summaries included in your results. You also want to select peer review. I always select that because most of the time your professor wants you to use articles from a peer-reviewed journal. That basically means that the article had to go through a rigorous review process before it was accepted to be published in that journal. Usually magazine articles and newspaper articles are not peer-reviewed. Now I'm going to hit search. So this search retrieved a lot of articles. I can keep my results as is or add more filters to narrow down my search further. The filters are over here on the left side of the screen. Since I'm happy with the results, I'll keep them as is and start looking at the titles of the abstract, which is just a summary of the article. Just hover over the magnifying glass to read the abstract. The summary looks good. Click on the title to access the full text. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact library staff for help. There are a variety of ways you can contact us. Remember, we're here to help.
I'm going to also go into searching ProQuest. So one more I'm going to show you here.
Hello, this is a tutorial on how to use a ProQuest database to find articles quickly and efficiently for your class assignments and research. Don't waste time scrolling through sketchy google.com results and go straight to the powerful databases that are available to you on and off campus. These databases are expensive, but are completely free to our Vanguard students. From the bottom of the library webpage, I clicked on the database called ProQuest Central. This is ProQuest's biggest multidisciplinary database, so you'll find it useful for most topics. I'm now on the ProQuest Central Advanced Search page, and you'll notice that there are search boxes here for your keywords. This isn't Google, so we can't just type in the sentence. Instead, carefully select the keywords that are the main concepts of your topic or subtopic. Let's pretend that my paper is on dementia among the elderly, and I need to find peer-reviewed articles on this topic. I'm going to use the keywords dementia and elderly. Don't use too many keywords at one time because each additional keyword narrows down your results. Next, let's look at the filters. The most important filter is the checkbox for full text. The full text checkbox will narrow your results to only those that have the entire article available to you. And the peer review checkbox tells the database to only include scholarly articles that have been approved by a board of reviewers before they could be published. Just remember that magazines and newspapers are generally not peer reviewed.
I'm going to skip over the additional filters and click on search to see what my results are. Once I have my results, I can continue to narrow or search even more with the filter options here on the left-hand side. If your results are not what you were expecting, try to experiment with your keywords or get in touch with a librarian for help. Once I'm satisfied with my results, I can click on the title to access the article. Thanks for watching and learning how to find articles in PerkWest databases. If you do find yourself getting stuck in your research process, don't hesitate to contact a librarian in one of these ways. We're here to help you.
Okay, so those are just a few. I also would have shown you JSTOR. It also has some other really good just offerings for you, some other tools. Now, I have in Module 2 this link, so you can get here to Vanguard's video tutorial page, which if you weren't able to catch all that as we went through it, and you can even go through and look at more tutorials if that helps you out. So that is in Module 2 that I have a link there for you on that, okay? Hopefully that helps you a little bit though to see there's so many tools and resources out there, and Vanguard has a lot of them. Here's one of the things that makes me sad is you have access to the Vanguard library until you graduate, and then you don't. And I keep asking them, why don't we have a Friends of the Library? I mean, I could even be a friend of UCI and I never went there. So I'm not sure why we don't have a Friends of the Vanguard Library. Maybe we can keep asking for that and see if we get that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that one down. And then I'm going to go back to, yes.
What is the logos? Isn't that access to the libraries and all the documents that they recently launched?
Oh, I don't know, Janet. Did they do something that I asked?
I think so, because they said, yes, they said that they charging us in tuition. I think it was like 50 more or something like that. And I know, but it was to get access to logos. And I think logos is to be able to get access to this forever.
Nikki, do you know that too? Is that, yeah?
Logos is, yes, they did launch Logos for students, but it's a Bible like commentary library, and it gives you able to do things like sermon prep and things like that. So it's like a digital commentary, which is not the same as
this. Okay, got it.
Oh, you were saying logos. I'm sorry, I was hearing Lobos, and I thought it was loan by, you know, something from the library. Okay, library. No, Logos, yes. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, I don't think they still have, but you know what? Maybe they have something, Janet, and I'm not aware of it. We can keep looking into that and see, because I think it's important. Otherwise, what they do say is, we can always come into the library. Well, no, not if you live in Texas. You can't. So that would make it very difficult. But right now, you do have access to the Vanguard Library. Okay. Now, coming back to your question, Paul, of how do I know now what data to use? So here's a page here that just has some questions on it. Here's some things you would ask. And remember, you have access to this, so don't try to write it down. It's there for you. Who's the author? So as you found the books that you want to look at, whether they're ebooks or actually physical copies, who is the author? And if you don't know who the author, you know, that name, you might research. Sometimes you have to do even more research of, okay, I've got to see what is the author's stance on this? What's their perspective? How do I know if this is going to be something I want? But also remember, as I was talking to Richard before, don't always just find things that align with you. Maybe you need a different perspective on it. Maybe you need to see the other side of things to even solidify more your perspective. What is that purpose of that author? For what purpose are they writing this book or article or whatever it is they're writing? How recent is the source? Now, where that is going to matter is, again, of whatever topic you're doing. If you're doing something on history, then the older it is, sometimes is okay. But if you're wanting, like Tina was mentioning, she wants to look at the benefits of online offerings post-pandemic, she doesn't want anything earlier than 2021. And that's why I'm saying she may not find too much right now. And actually, we just, 2022, we went out of the pandemic. So post-pandemic actually just occurred a few months ago. Actually, August, we went into an endemic. there's not going to be a whole lot out there on post-pandemic, but I bet you there's some people's opinions on things. Then also, what type of source does your, look at this question, what type of source does your audience value? Are you doing this for scholarly research? Are you doing it for the church board? Are you doing it for an organization that they've commissioned you to do research? So what audience are you going to then giving the results to? Here's another article for you that will help you along these same lines. I'm not going to go over this right now, but I put it in module 2. I checked earlier and it is in module 2, that this will help you identify, is it a scholarly article? Is it a trade journal? Or is it just a popular magazine? Because for your research, you do not want to use the People magazine. It might be fun to read, but it's not going to be scholarly. And even a trade journal is not going to be what you need if you're doing scholarly research. This is in module 2, so you can look at that as well. Now, what if we want some other resources other than in a library? Because there are some legit, there is some legit research out there and information statistics that you might want to use, and especially who in here has already had change theory strategic planning? Who's had that class with me so far? Sam, did you have that one yet? Change theory, yeah. Trying to think, anybody else have that one? Maybe just Sam. Okay, in that class, you actually are developing, in theory, a 501c3 in 5 weeks, but theoretically, you're doing it. But you're going to, I love some of the reactions. You guys make my day. Theoretically, you're going to develop it. Although some of you develop them after the class is over. But you might need, I actually ask you to do a demographic search and some demographic information in there. So here are some other sites. I have them set up to go into each one. I'm not going to go over them right now because I really want to get to helping you develop that research question. But if you click on later on each of these sites, you're going to find some statistics done by the federal government, done by Library of Congress. The ARDA is a religious site. That one I really did want to. Ooh, oh gosh, we may have to do that one. Okay, so let me see if I can quickly, oh, come back. Let me see if I can quickly do a new share. We need a 5-hour class. Okay, so this is the one on the government site. And look, there's anything and everything you could want. So go there. Here's Library of Congress. And you can find all kinds of stuff in there that's really good. There's everything. There's look, it says everything. What more could you want? But let's go here. This is ARDA, the Association of Religion Data Archives. So here's a site that many of you will want. But I thought this was fascinating. I had never actually clicked on this. Let's see if it was this that I clicked on earlier. Oh, here. I'm going to put my zip code in. Tell me, I hope we don't lose it. I hope you get to see this. This is now going to show, oh, wait. Enter zip code or city. I wonder, oh, here, I want to put this in. I put this in earlier. Let's see if it still works. Dallas, and I want to go 15 miles. See if it'll do it. Look at this, you guys. These are all the churches within 15 miles of the hub of Dallas. All the churches. I was trying to find Potter's house in there. I'm like, okay, I see Porter. Where's the Potter's house? Is it actually in Dallas? Where's my Kim? Where's Potter's house?
It's that's considered Dallas.
So it should be in there somewhere.
Right.
But look at all those churches. Is that not amazing? That just blew me away. I don't know why I would need that information. And then as I went out and then started looking more into the suburbs, I could tell there were fewer, especially as I got closer. Look, as I get out here to, I don't know these areas, I'm sorry. But look, there's fewer churches here. But isn't that interesting that somebody, here's what blows me away. Somebody put all that data in there. I wonder what they paid them to do that. But you can find so much more on this site than that, but I had never seen that before. And that just, I know I'm easily entertained. Sorry about that. Okay. Let me go back to where we were with PowerPoint.
See, so
Yeah.
now you're gonna have me go into that site so I can find Dallas, so I can tell you exactly where, I mean, the Potter's House. So I
Thank
can
you,
tell you
Kim.
exactly where
Thank
use
you.
next class.
You can go right there and find it and then send me, screenshot it for me, would you please? All right, another question you're going to ask is, should I use, let me go back real quickly. Other areas that you'll find great information is city chambers. Whatever your city chamber is, you'll find information about that city. So if you're wanting to do a pioneer work, I've helped several churches pioneer. And so we go right into the city of chambers and find out the demographics for the area. And that's a great place to find data. Also consider non-governmental agencies, professional associations, but always use the raw statistics from the governmental agencies, not the stats from a special interest group. Okay. Now, do I use primary or secondary information? Who on here knows the difference between primary and secondary? Good, you should, because that was part of your reading last week. Okay, every hand I know meant to go up. You're like, why is she asking us questions? I'm busy watching football. Does she not know the Rams are playing the Bills right now? And I've got to watch that? No, it's being taped right now, okay? You do like I do, and you record it. Thank you. All right, never mind. Okay. So primary versus secondary, it was in your Barna research last week. Primary just says that you are going to be, you as the researcher, are going to do all the work. The information that you're going to use is going to be created by you. So again, when I did the doctoral dissertation, I actually tried to go secondary, and I contacted Barna and said, you have a survey out there that I would love to use. And he said, no, I don't allow doctoral dissertation students to use my information already. You need to learn how to develop it on your own. And I said, thank you, George. I will do that. And so I did. And actually, I'm glad I did, because now I get to teach this course and other courses like it to say, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. Primary, again, you develop all of it. You decide where the information is going to come from, what the questions are. You build it from scratch. That way you get, one of the benefits of that is you get exactly what you want, exactly what you put in. Secondary is information that, again, has been collected by someone else for their own purposes, but you have been given permission to use it. Now, there's a lot more about that in the reading, so make sure you do that reading, and also do those week 1, 2, 3, those study notes, those extra notes. Make sure you're doing those. But Barna actually even has a comparison of primary versus secondary. So I'm going to be moving on because I've got to get us. Oh, this is a great article. You have to read this later because it's an article on how Jesus loved data. And it shows you how he, even when he was feeding the 5,000, he had to do a census of the people's needs. So read that. That'll be a good one. It's in module 2 as well. It actually says Jesus loved data article there for your pleasure. Okay. Here we go. Ready? We're going to get you into you developing your research question. So here's the, I'm hoping we can get this done in the next 30 minutes. I really want us to utilize the Jamboard. So we'll see. Let's see what we can do here. So developing a research question. Some people also say it this way, developing a research statement. Some people put it in question form. Some people and some professors, even as you go through your statistics class, Paul, close your ears, statistics class. You're going to do great. You're going to be fine. When you go through, they make you do it more in a statement. So instead of a question, you make a declaration, okay? I can't think of one right now. All right, but here's where we start. What problem, what question, or what issue of concern do you have that you would like to research? Now, again, we are Research Methods for Christian Organizations. So I would like to encourage you to think about a problem, question, or issue of concern in the world of church, okay? When you're out of this class, you can do whatever you want, but I would really like for you to try to keep it aligned to, not necessarily a church, but a Christian organizations or something biblical if you can. If you just can't come up with something like that, we'll, contact me and we'll talk about it. What is it that you would like to research? What What is it that perhaps you've always been asking? Why, in fact, Kim and I had a really good conversation last week, and we both have always been concerned. Why do we lose people in middle school? Why do we lose individuals going to church in middle school? Why do college students stop going to church? That has always been a great concern for me, and found out it was a great concern for Kim as well. Or perhaps you want to know, now again, this one isn't necessarily Christian, but perhaps you want to know what individuals are doing on social media. Maybe that's always been a concern of yours. And actually we could Christianize that one a little bit. What are Christian teens doing on social media? We could throw that word in there. And we can break it down into different groups. What are boomers versus mosaics or versus the Z generation doing on social media? Then with that, maybe I want to know which social media outlets are they most engaged with? Several professor friends of mine at Santa Ana College were frustrated that their students were responding to the departmental Facebook page. Why? Because young people aren't on Facebook. Grandma is on Facebook posting naked pictures of you when you were 2 years old in the bathtub. And so you've written her off and you don't do Facebook. So I told them, let's do some research. Let's actually do a survey of how many of our students are on Facebook. Less than 1%. They're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on, other things where grandma hasn't figured out. Well, some grandmas have found it, but many of them aren't on TikTok. So that's where they're spending, or Snapchat or any of those other sites. Okay. So again, coming back to you developing your research question, you want to then determine, and let me see if this is my next slide. Here we go. Developing your research question, you want to come up with a question about the social world that you're going to seek to answer through the collection and analysis of, and Shute says part of the definition is firsthand, so that's primary, verifiable empirical data. You're then going to, from that research question, come up with your topic. The topic is what the research is actually about. And then what is the issue? What's the concept? So here's the way you think about that. The issue is, what's a concept upon which I could take a stand? What's the issue of which it could actually be debatable on one side or another? Many different perspectives that I would take on that.
So you have to write a research paper. For some of you, this might mean going to Google, typing in your general topic, and using information from the first 2 or 3 results that you find. For others, this might mean trying to find out everything you possibly can about your topic. Unfortunately, neither of these approaches is likely to get great results. To be done right, research needs to be guided by a focused research question. Without a good research question, you will probably end up with a paper that never really comes together because you didn't have a clear direction. But what exactly is a research question? At the most basic, the research question is just a question related to your topic that needs to be answered. The whole purpose of your research will be to provide an answer to the question. You're probably thinking that this doesn't sound too difficult. If a research question is just a question about your topic, it should be easy to come up with one, right? Well, not exactly. For many students, developing a research question is actually one of the hardest parts of the whole research process. In some cases, a student might not know enough about their topic to even understand the kinds of questions that are possible to ask. Even if the student has some knowledge about the topic, they may still not have a good idea of the whole scope of the topic or of recent developments related to that topic. For this reason, it's usually a good idea to try to do some background research before you try to settle on a specific question. This doesn't have to be extensive or time-consuming. For many of you, simply looking at a Wikipedia article or a few recent news articles related to your topic will be enough to give you some ideas for directions that you want to explore. Once you have a bit of background information, you'll be better able to focus your topic into a good research question. But what makes a question a good research question? There are several things that you need to keep in mind. First, A research question should not be too narrow or too broad. If you can answer your question with a few facts, you're not researching, you're just searching. On the other hand, if you would need to write an entire book to appropriately answer your question, then it's probably not a good question for you either, at least at this level. Your question also needs to be specific. Questions such as, is television a bad influence, is very vague. Which television programs are you talking about? What audience are you talking about? What exactly do you mean by bad? Making your question a bit more precise will give you more direction for your research. A research question should also have some significance. It should be something that interests you because you will be spending some time with the topic, but it should also be something that other people might find important as well. This doesn't mean that you can't research topics like popular culture or sports or social media. It just means that you need to frame your research in such a way as to make sure the topic is relevant to more than just you. While you want your topic to be significant, you also want to be careful not to ask the types of questions that can't really be answered. Questions such as, why must people suffer? Or what happens after we die? Are certainly significant to many people, but very difficult to answer. Keep in mind that research papers are not intended to be philosophical treatises. So, as you can see, asking any old question related to your topic won't work. Fortunately, many poor research questions can be transformed into good research questions with only a few tweaks. For example, the question of why must people suffer could be transformed into a more focused question, such as how have major 20th century Christian theologians explained the purpose of human suffering? Finally, you might also want to make your research question a little bit unique and creative. Some topics have already been researched over and over and over, and you might want to avoid those topics if you can. If you do have a common topic, it's often a good idea to try to find a slightly different angle, something that allows you to add your own twist. After all, research should not be about asking questions that have already been answered many times before.
Created using Powtoon.
Okay, let me go. Sometimes it makes you click out. Let me click out and let me click, make sure we're still in there. Okay. So we're actually not going to have time to Jamboard. So I'm going to go through and just make sure you really understand how you're going to develop a question. And then we'll see what questions you might have for me. So developing a research question, excuse me, you want to identify one or more questions for study, maybe from your own experience, from other researchers. So as you're doing any literature search, research, you might come up with a question from there. Like I said, it's okay. Oh, and I would tell you too, that was a really good little clip she did there. So if you didn't quite catch it all, go back into this PowerPoint and watch it again, because she actually does a really nice job in 4 minutes of showing you how to develop a research question. You might also identify one or more questions from maybe some social issues that are out there. I really find the best ones though come from your own experience. What is it that's bothering you? What are the problems or issues or concerns that you are seeing out there? Then you're going to refine the question. And one of the questions she said and told us to look at is, can the topic be researched? So is there enough information out there that you could actually do some research on that question or on that statement? Make sure it's neither too broad nor too narrow. So again, with too narrow is going to be those questions that Siri could answer for us, such as the one she had there is, who won the Super Bowl? I mean, we can find that out in an instant. So that's not a research question. Okay. Let's go back a minute to, can it be researched? Let me ask you 2 different questions here. Which one of these could you research? Could you research this question? Is there a link between the hours of television viewing and violent behavior in children aged 8 through 14? Do you think that could be researched? Yeah, it can, can't it? Could you research this one? Who has a better hamburger, In-N-Out or Whataburger? Where's my Dallas people? Come on now.
McDonald's.
Well, wait, do you live in Texas? Who answered that?
Whataburger.
That goes to show he doesn't know anything about Whataburger.
Yeah, I'm with Tina. Yeah, Whataburger for sure.
Oh my gosh. No, In-N-Out. No, I can't. Okay, well, I would tell you who doesn't. Sonic. Sonic does not, and neither does Habit. Because I had to stop and get one the other day, and I thought, why did I eat here? No. But again, see, it's just subjective. There's no research that you could get people's opinions, but that's not going to be research. But I do always find it fun when we have our Texas folks here to help us. Tina, wasn't it you that I had to ask what hamburgers were in Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think you gave me that question. Thank you so much for helping me out with that. That was awesome. Okay, now again, neither too broad nor too narrow. So let's say you're going to do something on juvenile delinquency, which is a topic that can be researched. Here are some of the questions you might ask. Now you tell me, are these too narrow or too broad? So we're talking about juvenile delinquency. What is the 2021 rate of juvenile delinquency in the United States? Is that too broad or too narrow?
Too broad. Narrow?
Yeah, too narrow because I can ask Siri. I can get that answer in, so let me ask it again. What is the 2021 rate of juvenile delinquency in the United States? I know it's hard sometimes on Zoom to hear also. So I can find that in less than 2 minutes. We could find that out. We could just go to a criminal justice site and find it, right? But now listen to this one. I'm going to tell you, this one's too broad. What could we do to reduce juvenile delinquency in the United States? Too broad. Here we go. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Here's going to be just right. Ready? Does education play a role in reducing juvenile delinquents' return to crime? So see the difference where one was, it could be answered immediately. One, I don't know, we could spend years answering it. And now this one, here's one aspect, just one portion of it that we could actually address. Another good one might be for another topic. What impact does single parenting have on media use in children under 10? Researchable, not too narrow, not too broad, and it's only one aspect of the issue of media use in children under 10. Okay. Then evaluate your question. I actually have in the assignment you're doing and also in module 2, it actually has a question evaluation. So we were going to do the class activity. We don't have time because I promised you're going to be out by 8. We'll see if we might be able to, I'm trying to see if we could actually do this very quickly. Let me go ahead and do through everything else and then we'll see if you even need that. We were going to do 4 different breakout rooms and each group was going to take one of these topics and develop a research question. But I think it's more important that I get through all of this, that you focus on your question, okay? Here is the, again, don't try to copy this down. It's in the assignment and it's also in module 2. There's also a link there on evaluating your research question. So once you come up with your research question or statement, before you even post it on that site that on the forum, run yourself through these questions, okay? Whatever you come up with first, and I think our assignment's not due till the 10th. So here we are on the 8th. You have a couple of more days to put it up there. If some of you have already put it up, I haven't checked yet. Feel free to modify it, edit it out a little bit if you haven't done this part yet. Take your question through this evaluation. One of the main things is, does the question deal with a topic or issue that interests me enough that it's going to spark my own thoughts and opinions? You need to do something, even for this class, but I will tell you too, when you do a bigger thing, you got to do something that keeps your interest. You gotta want to know, I really do want to know, why do college students stop going to church? And we also, Kim and I had a really good conversation of, no, God doesn't require you to go to church, but he does say, that you need to continue to be in community with one another. So I think, Kim, we even we modified the question a little bit, not why did they stop going to church, but why do they fall out of community? Why do they fall out of Christian community? Is that is that where we kind of came to, Kim, on that question? Do you remember that? Yeah. Well, so
Yes.
even as and you know what was so much fun? Kim and I had a great time the other day just talking about questions, and we started one place and we ended up someplace entirely different, didn't we? Yeah. In fact, we decided not to do it on that topic at all. No. But what's fun is and that's one of the reasons I have this as a forum. You're not on your own. You're going to have, I think we have 17 in our class. You're going to have 16 other people helping you. And this is one of the forums, you guys, I really am requesting you help each other out. Help each other. I'm going to stay off the forum. I purposely stay off the forums after week 1 to let you do your work together as a class. So I want you on the forums with each other, because your minds are just as brilliant as, you know, as any professor out there. You know what's out there. You've been in the world. You've dealt in church. You've dealt with your people. You've been around. So help each other out. But think about these questions. Is the question easily and fully researchable? Can it be done? What type of information do I need to answer the research question? So here's an example of a research question. What impact has deregulation had on commercial airline safety? Obviously, this came from a stats book, okay? It's obviously going to require certain types of information. It's going to require statistics on airline crashes. It's going to require statistics on safety problems. It's going to require information on maintenance practices, on government safety requirements. You're going to have different questions that you're going to be asking. Is the scope of this information reasonable? Can I really research 30 online writing programs developed over a span of 30 years? No, especially not for our class. Okay. Let's see. Given the type and scope of the information, is my question too broad or too narrow? Or is it okay? And let me say this too, this isn't on there. Don't get married to your question. Do not get married to your question. For one, this is an assignment. Do not get your feelings hurt. When someone says, yeah, I'm not thinking it, because sometimes we don't post things, you know, we're thinking the way we want to say it, and we don't always say it correctly. We're going to be very kind with each other, very gentle, compassionate, kindness with each other. But we may say it incorrectly. Don't get your feelings hurt, okay? No combating. We're here to help each other. And then also, can I access the sources that I need for my question? Now, given my answers to the above questions, do I have a good quality research question that I actually will be able to answer by doing research? And again, with this one, you're going to use this for week 4 in your interviews or focus groups. So also, and that's where Kim and I talked the other day, can you actually locate those people that you are going to want to interview or have in your focus group? So if you come up with some kind of question and those people aren't available, then you're going to be contacting me week 4 and say, Professor, I can't get a hold of anybody to answer these questions. I'm going to say, oh, I'm sorry. No, no, I'd be more compassionate than that. But I want you to think through now, where am I going to get a hold of these people? So this might not even be the driving question you have right now, but if you're leading a Bible study or a youth group or something, and you know the people you can get a hold of, go ahead and do your question around that, because we're just practicing right now anyway. Let me check chat. Is there anything anyone's looking at? Oh gosh, who said Wendy's? Letitia, really? You think Wendy's has the best?
I like their fries and the chili too.
Well, okay, but hamburger.
I eat it all at the same time. Don't judge me.
I don't judge. And in fact, you know what? Right now, I would love to have one. I haven't eaten today, and why did I even talk about burgers? I'm so hungry right now. Nikki, what are you eating? Oh, you're eating my favorite food, pizza. From where?
My husband brought me home some Blaze pizza. I'm sorry.
Blaze? So, how many of you have Blaze pizza around? You get to, right? Do we just have it in Orange County? Okay, and they just came out yesterday with the 20 top pizza places in Orange County, and they're almost all in Costa Mesa. And my favorite for my Costa Mesa-ites, have any of you had 2145 Eats? Okay, you got to try it. It's there, the corner of Placentia and Victoria. and call me and I'll go with you. Okay, sorry about that. All right, just a little bit of, pizza is my favorite food. It's the one when they ask the question, what could you eat every day of your life? Pizza. All right, thank you. Find a research question based on that. Oh, let me just say this real quickly because we're almost done here. So that's on the question evaluation. I'll ask in a minute. Anybody have questions? You probably will, and I don't mean your research question, but let me encourage you. You need to be doing your participant observational assignment as well. Remember, that's where you're going somewhere. And I'll tell you what I did for you today. You're welcome. I went on to the assignment and put a sample paper. Oh, excuse me. So if you go to the participant observation assignment, and if you went before today, you want to go back because I actually put in a student paper. And let me quickly go there. I bet someone put their favorite pizza in there. Round Table. I like Round Table. Letitia, let's go. Let's go. I will pick you up and we will go, sister. Anything with pizza. Let me go back here for a moment. Okay. Let me go to our class. Where's our class? Here we go. Here's our class. Okay, module 2. Look at all these wonderful things I put in module 2 for you. And now let me go to the actual assignment. Let's just go from over here. Assignments. We're talking right now about participant observation assignment. I've moved away from the research question one. So I also made the assignments bigger up here because they were hidden down here. Where is my sample paper? Oh, you know what I bet I did? I bet I put it in the one from 21. I'll do it before I finish tonight. Crud cakes, because I wanted to show you what to do. Well, let's go here. Let me open this. Tell me if you can still see this. Can you still see the assignment when it comes up? Okay, good. So what you're going to do, the purpose of this is for you to experience being a participant observer. And also in module 2, study notes, there's some extra elements that I'm not going to go through because we're out of time here. And I don't need to because you can read it. You can read the information, extra study notes on participant observation. But here's your actual assignment. What you're going to do here, here's the outline. And my suggestion is to copy. Oh, I guess it won't let me do that. Oh, yeah, I can. Copy this part of it here and paste. Copy and paste this into a Word, Pages, Google Doc, whatever you like to do. And then you're going to answer once you get in there. So this first one says, so you go somewhere, you visit, read these questions before you get there so you know what you're looking for. Describe the exterior and interior of the building. How does the architecture compare to the surrounding buildings? Are they clearly marked? But what you're going to do is you're going to click after the word etc. It's not going to let me do it here. And then just type in another color. So you're not writing an essay. You're not writing a paper. You're just answering the facts, just the facts, ma'am. You're going to put the answers in here in just a different color. This is giving you an opportunity to visit someplace. And remember, I said, if you can't find a place to go, the Catholic Church has a mass every morning. And I've had students who've gone to Catholic mass and they're like, oh, that was interesting. I had someone go to Kingdom Hall, to Jehovah Witness. Somebody went to the Mormon ward a couple years ago. That was so exciting, before the pandemic. That was exciting for them. They said, when they went in there, people thought they were just from another ward. And here was one of the interesting things about that, you know, because it was Mormon, right? And the Mormons have a testimony time at the end. And the individuals that were there from our class said it really broke their heart because at the end, all the testimonies were how wonderful Joseph Smith is. None of the testimonies were about Jesus at all. And then they even, you know, took communion and everything. My students didn't, but so you can go anywhere you want. You can go to an AA, NA, PTA. You can go somewhere. I want you to go somewhere and just experience not being the person leading the group and looking for these different components. You're not leading this group. I want you to go someplace where somebody doesn't know you. And then at the very end, you get to give your interpretation and your meaning. But all these up here are just facts that you are looking for. And we are at 7:57 right now. Let me see. No, I don't like mountain mics. Whoever put that up there, I don't like them. All right, I'm going to hit stop share. coming back to all of you fine people here. That's I like the pizza I like. I'm sorry. Now I'm hungry and I'm going to go try to find something to eat as soon as we get off here. All right. Any questions? I know that was a lot of information tonight. And like I said, before I finish tonight, I'm going to go back into our assignment. I have a feeling I put that sample paper in because I went back to 2021 and found somebody's paper and then uploaded it where I thought it was in the assignment, but I was still in fall of 2021. So I apologize for that. Right now, I'm going to go in and put a sample paper in 2022. Oh. Okay, Jonathan, thank you for sharing that very important information. We might cause problems with that. Oh, I see that. Oh, they're not having it. They're not having it. Okay. Now, before we go though, do any of you have any questions for me? Okay, I'm going to agree with you on that. Their fries are trash. So what I used to do is I used to go into In-N-Out Burger and get the burger. And on 19th Street in Costa Mesa, there used to be McDonald's across the street. So I'd get the In-N-Out Burger, go across the street and get the fries. Yeah, there you go. Oh, Nikki says we need to get different kinds of fries. It will change your life. All right. So if anybody's looking for a life change, try those fries she just said. Okay, anyway, what questions, any questions in 1 minute do you have? I will still continue to stay on here as long as people need me. In just a moment or two, I'm going to release the whole class. Does anybody have a question that you think the rest of the class would want to know regarding our assignments or anything we covered tonight? Letitia?
Just whenever you go into the discussion, remember how you said the way we ask a question may not be the proper way to ask it, but the question is there. Can you please look at mine and let me know if I wrote it correctly and if it's making sense?
Okay. And others, everyone in the class do that. And here's the other thing. Thank you for bringing that up too. If when you're on the forum, here's what happens a lot of times. Whoever gets up there first, people just start replying to. Scroll down and see if there's somebody there that nobody has like posted on theirs as we continue, because it's not even due for 2 more days. And then you have a few more days to work on it. But look and see if there's somebody who hasn't been addressed and put it on there. Here's one of the things I do want to say this to you as well. I want to commend you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will tell you, Thursday nights are my favorite nights. I love being at Vanguard and I love groups like you. And I want to commend you on your shoes. For one, your shoes, your boots, your flip-flops, your sandals. Sandals are shoes as well. But also, even beyond that, I want to commend you on the way you took care of each other. And the way that you just embraced each other and made sure that, one, it was fun. It's one of my favorite discussion forums. I was telling somebody yesterday about it in my education course. We don't use that. I don't use that in any other class, but this class, that's the one I use for here. I loved your interactions with each other and I loved how you took care of each other. So continue to do that. And again, continue to look for individuals that maybe, oh, I love how we're still on burgers. That's right. I'm not rallies. I don't know. Do we have rallies out here? Do we have a rallies out here? Where is it?
It's the same as Checkers. Checkers and Rallies are the
I don't know
sister
Checkers.
companies. Yeah, it's Culver City has a couple.
We have it here as well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I also think, I don't like Sonic Burgers, but I like that they're on roller skates and that gives them a little bit of, yeah. Okay. Any other
They're
questions?
still doing roller skates down there? Because
Yeah.
they stopped there here after a couple of people bust their head. Like, they don't do it. Too many, like, not at least where I'm at anyway. So
You got to get people who know how to skate, Paul. I competed in roller skating. I started skating it when I was 3 and I competed through adulthood in roller skating. I was in a roller skating commercial. I was in a commercial, Igloo commercial last year, roller skating. See if you can find that one. Back in 2021.
They roller skate at Sonic's too.
Yeah, yeah. See?
They serve on skate.
And she's in Texas.
I guess it's San Antonio, they must have had some kind of law or something come out, because I have not seen one person from Sonic skating anymore. Like,
Well,
it's-
Paul, I
they roll
think,
up and throw your stuff in the car and walk off. So I don't.
I think where you are, they were ice skating and they had lots of issues with that. They couldn't ice skate on the concrete. I don't know. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and also stop recording.